Morning everyone, this is Mr. Boone. I'm going to be talking you through the first part of the Unit 20 and 24 prep lessons. Just on the screen at the moment is just a reminder, hopefully everyone by now should have set up a Unit 20 and 24 prep blog. I think you probably did that with Miss Crady yesterday with the brief lesson. If you haven't done that already, can you just make sure that you've set up your prep blog and you've emailed it to either one of us? Okay, this is the first of these screencasts I've done, so there might be a few teething problems, but hopefully it will all go off according to plan. There's plenty of occasions during the presentation where I'm going to be asking you to make notes or to brainstorm ideas or to populate your blogs. So please, if there are any occasions where I'm asking you to do something, please just make sure that you do them on your blogs and then post them, and as per normal we will we'll be marking them. Okay, the first blog, if you can entitle this one, just like in the top left hand corner of the screen, if you can entitle this Advertising Is. We're going to go through in today's lesson a definition of advertising. We're going to look at some of the media platforms on which advertising exists, and then we're going to be looking at a few examples from the world of advertising. And the main things we're going to be looking for will be consistency of message, target audience, and the type of media platforms these adverts appear on. Okay, first things first, if you can copy down this definition. So before we even start looking at what advertising is, we need to know what exactly it is. So this is our definition. Advertising is a campaign promoting a product or idea which can persuade or interest a target audience to purchase or use products and services. The campaign may use many different forms of media to promote a message for a set amount of time. Okay, so you can just take a couple of minutes just to write that down. So I guess the kind of key terms there, the key words in that definition, you're going to be looking at the word persuade. So any advertising campaign needs to be really, really persuasive. You need to finish watching an advert, coming out of it thinking, yeah, I'm going to go and buy that product. I need that product. I can't live my life without that product. And then the second part of the definition, you're looking at the campaign may use many different forms of media to promote a message for a set amount of time. So what you'll find with most advertising campaigns is they won't just exist in singular form. It won't just be, a television advert. It's more than likely that there'll be maybe an accompanying print advert to go with it. There'd be, possibly a social media campaign. And we're going to sort of delve into that as this course goes on. Okay, right, so the next thing I'd like you to do is, you will know some of this already. Some people who are doing this course at the moment, you've done different units, but hopefully by now, having studied media for nearly a year, you'll know something about the different media platforms used in advertising. So could you just make a little title underneath your definition that you've just written down, and could you write a subheading, media platforms used in advertising? And what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to spend about 2 to 3 minutes just listing as many different media platforms as you can that are used in advertising. And you'll see on the slide there's 3 examples have been given: magazine ads, video ads, and social media adverts. Each of those, I think, requires a little bit more close analysis. So if you can start off now, like I say, about 2 to 3 minutes, list as many different media platforms as you can. I'm going to leave this running for the next 3 minutes, and I'll come back to you and we'll do a kind of, in inverted commas, discussion thereafter. Okay, hopefully you've managed to sort of populate that list with as many different examples as possible. I'm just going to, normally in class we'd do this as a discussion, and I'd be writing it on the whiteboard, and we'd sort of do some sort of analysis of each of them. But I'm just going to talk through a few ideas. So if you can kind of take notes as we go along, and just add to your lists where necessary. So the first one's on the screen already. We sort of you've got magazine adverts on there. Whatever sort of form of advertising you're looking at, you need to think about what type of magazine the advert might appear in. So you know, you probably wouldn't have a bottle of perfume advertised in a model rail enthusiasts magazine. So generally speaking, the advertisement in the magazine will be relevant to what that magazine is. So if it's you know, if it's a men's magazine, you might get stuff like watches and aftershaves advertised. Closely related to that, with sort of print ads, you quite often get advertisements in newspapers as well. You probably find that you'll get more advertisements in a tabloid newspaper, such as The Sun, as opposed to a broadsheet newspaper like The Guardian. And again, just with magazines, you'll find that the adverts will probably be relevant to the target audience. So that's magazines and newspapers. The next one on the list there, video adverts. I guess that could take a number of different forms. I think with video adverts, you're probably most likely to see them on YouTube, or possibly as I don't know, pop-ups in social media. You'll notice with a video advert on YouTube, there'll be different lengths. Most adverts are around, I think most of them about 30 seconds, but they can go up to a minute or two as well. Next on, the other thing with video adverts, if you're looking at something like YouTube, is exactly how they appear on YouTube. So there's lots of different ways that video ads appear. When you start watching a new video, it might be the case that a video starts playing and you've got no choice but to watch it all the way through. Some of the adverts, they on YouTube, they start to play for 5 seconds and then you can skip them, which I guess most people probably do. And also on YouTube, you'll find on the timeline that there's those little yellow tabs, and with those you'll get pop-up adverts, but not necessarily video adverts. The other thing you occasionally get on YouTube is if you're watching a longer video, it might be the case that it pauses halfway through, and you have to watch another advert in that. So that's video adverts. There are other platforms apart from YouTube, but I think that's probably the main one. Social media adverts, as you know, I don't really use social media, but I'm sure most of you do. So you'll know a lot about this. You'll know that when you're discussing this in detail, it's best not to just say social media adverts, but look at the different platforms like Instagram, like Facebook, like Twitter. Think about how advertisements are shown on these platforms. Do they appear as pop-ups? Where do they appear on the timeline or what have you? Other things you could talk about, I've sort of briefly mentioned this already, but pop-up ads in YouTube. Pop-up ads can also appear in lots of different forms of online platforms. For example, I quite often look at the website imdb.com, which is a film website, and quite often there'll be a pop-up on that for a new trailer for a new film that's coming out. You get pop-ups in all sorts of things. If you open, what was I looking at yesterday? I was looking at the Telegraph yesterday, the newspaper, and when you open the Telegraph, a pop-up advert appears on there. So pop-ups, slightly old-fashioned, I guess, but email shots is another form of platform that's used for advertising. My email account nowadays, not many people email anymore. Most of it is just filled with junk and spam. I think people like Amazon, they email me at least twice a day, and I never read any of their adverts. So emails become this sort of a dumping ground for spam and junk. A couple of other ones. Billboards. If you've done this before in Unit 1, I'm not sure how many people have done this so far, but billboards are an example of above-the-line advertising. Above-the-line advertising is mass media advertising. It's not particularly directed at any particular audience. It's just there for the masses to see. Quite expensive. It gets the message out there. Not targeted, but as many people will see it as possible, but it will be expensive. You've also got examples of above-the-line advertising. Again, quite expensive. Expensive would be television and radio. You think, especially with television, the type of people who are going to be, watching television at given times, the advertising will be relevant to that. Excuse me. So, there's prime time slots in the old days when people used to sit there watching The X Factor on a Saturday night, just before the results were announced and the adverts played. They would be really expensive to host. So, and you got, commercial channels like ITV, and they live and die according to their advertising. So, advertising on commercial sites is really important. Same with the radio. And I guess the other one to talk about would be flyers, leaflets, and pamphlets. So people, giving you out flyers on the street, people giving you out, leaflets in store. That helps you to target audiences. This is an example more of below the line advertising, where it's targeted to a specific audience. So, if I go into a branch of Pets at Home, for example, and I buy some dog food, and at the counter they give me a flyer for dog shampooing, then that would be an example of below the line advertising, because it's directed specifically at me as somebody who has a doggy. Marvellous. Okay, and I guess maybe the last one, you might have a few more. This is not an exhaustive list at all, but you could also talk about maybe word of mouth. Anyone who studied the Frozen advertising campaign, the underselling that, they'll know that word of mouth was used quite extensively on that. Obviously, you can never just have word of mouth, because people need to know about the product in the first place. But word of mouth is an important form of advertising. I think I think this has got a 15-minute run, this video, so I'm going to pause it there, and I'll pick up the rest of the lesson in the next post.